right, ladies, welcome. Happy holidays. It's the beginning of all the craziness. Thank you for being here and joining us and taking time out of your day to hear about our amazing speaker. And I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it Lasenta?
It is. You got it.
Yeah, I always ask because even though my name is clearly spelled out, you don't know how many different variations I get of it. And thank you, Lasenta. We really appreciate you being here. I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you. Lasenta Lewis-Ellis is the president and CEO of LLE Construction Group, a woman and minority-owned general contracting and construction management firm focusing on creating, building, and maintaining space where people learn, live, work, and play. LLE specializes its owners' representation and consulting service in facility maintenance and sustainability, as well as program and project management with an emphasis in construction and commercial real estate development. Firm focused on affordable housing, commercial real estate, and mixed-use development. Lasenta's passion to inspire and encourage others led to establishing LLE Consultant, a division of LLE Consulting Construction Group that specializes in providing small business strategic development consulting and educational training services to small, women, and minority-owned businesses. LLE Consulting is excited about the creation of the PAD, a business entrepreneurship and contractor support center that will enable and empower small businesses through advocacy, outreach, education, mentoring, and support. As a woman and leader in business, Lasenta is passionate about engaging and sharing with her community, particularly in spaces that support the growth of women in entrepreneurship. She is a member of several professional and leadership organizations. She serves on many boards that focus on families, our youth, and uplifting women and homeless communities like Oliver Gospel Mission and Homeless No More. She has received many awards for being a woman in business, and in 2016, she was recognized as the Enterprising Woman of the Year from Enterprising Magazine, notably one of the most prestigious awards for women business owners with fast growth business who mentor or actively support other women and girls involving in entrepreneurship and stand out as a leader in their community. Lasenta is a lifelong learner and has continued her professional development by participating in various community and leadership programs. Lasenta holds an association in agricultural engineering technology from Midlands Technical College, a Bachelor of Arts in interdisciplinary studies from the University of South Carolina, a Master's of Arts in Human Resource Development from Webster University. She is pursuing a Doctor of Management and Organizational Leadership from the University of Phoenix. She is a licensed general contractor, real estate sales agent, focused on commercial real estate and construction manager in the state of South Carolina. Welcome, Lasenta.
Wow, what a great bio.
You're an amazing woman. Oh my God. I was like salivating over all of this and thinking, God, you and I are somewhat on the same path as consulting and believing that women should really just go. So we're just going to let you talk for a while. Tell us about yourself, your because you are a woman in construction, your obstacles that you've come across working in that position, and any other tidbits that you think we should learn about.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, first of all, for having me today. It is truly a pleasure because I do believe that it is important to have a seat at the table and an opportunity to really share the work that we do as women in the community. So thank you for this opportunity, South Carolina Women in Leadership. Just to give you a little bit, I mean, the bio was pretty amazing. I wonder who wrote that. I probably wrote it, but that was great. When I first started, I guess, when I started taking leadership seriously, in the beginning, I was just a worker, like I only looked at it as I'm going to work, I'm going to do the job that I'm tasked to do. I never looked at it that people will look up to me or that I would inspire others to just want to get up and continue to do the amazing work that they're doing, or really look at me as an influencer, or someone that people will look at and say, you know what, she's doing great things. I want to do some similar things. And look up to me. So in the beginning, I never really looked at leadership from a perspective that people would follow me, or even be inspired by my story, which I have an amazing God-given story. When I went off to college at Midlands Technical College, I'm really unsure about what my path looks like, but I had a passion for architectural engineering technology, which I earned a associate degree in. And I realized at that time, this is in the early 90s, that they weren't a lot of women who were in construction. There weren't a lot of women in architecture. And I didn't really know what to do with that. I just knew that I wanted to keep doing the things that I was very passionate about. And so for years, I've been in this architectural space, more on the drafting design side, and then more over into the construction side. And I remember when I obtained my first job at the University of South Carolina, my job was to design and help renovate spaces throughout the university system. And I realized that in order to design it, I had to understand construction, which I did not at the time. So I went back to Midlands Tech and took classes in construction, because, see, as women in leadership, or women, period, we always seem to have to prove our worth, or prove the value that we bring to the table. We always have to show that we've educated ourselves to a certain extent in order for people to invite us to the table. So at that time, education was very key for me. It was very critical, because I believe that when I come to the table, that set of knowledge that I bring is why people invite me to the table in the first place. So I had to go back to school to learn construction, and I realized in classes there were no women. And there was times that I was the only woman at the table, and I had to continuously, even till today, I've been in construction over 30 years. And sometimes today I'm invited to tables and I feel like I still have to prove that I even deserve a seat there. So that bothers me in a sense, because I think about the other women coming behind me that also have that challenge. And so for me, I decided I want to start creating a platform that allow women, all women, a seat at the table, share with you all, my journey, and expose you to some of the things that I've gone through in order to grow my company and grow myself, and also to provide access for other women to come into the construction industry. So that's been my focus when I think about my journey in construction. And I guess too, I just want to share from a leadership perspective. When my company started growing, I realized that I had to start building a team around me that could grow with me. And that has been a challenge. And I'm sure a lot of companies out there, especially small companies, that's one of the challenges that we face as leaders in our company is building our team. And what I decided to do I started my business in 2011. Instead of just building like my staff, I started building a group of subcontractors around me that could be like a extension to our company. So I started helping to develop a lot of small women and minority contractors here in Columbia that could be an extension to our team. That meant that I would go out and bid projects and hire to sub up under me to complete it, whether it's electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry work, whatever the needs are was for our clients. The goal for me was to figure out how can I build a community of contractors, one that it feeds them and their family. And it also allows us to continue to work with more local contractors. That made the work that we're doing very successful. We do at least $1 million or more per year in just revenue. And we sub out about probably about 85% of the work that we do. So when at the end of the year, when I meet with our subcontractors and we look at the numbers that they've been able to produce by teaming with us, I'm very grateful because we've had a hand in helping keep a lot of small business owners working. We've had a hand in helping them to sustain themselves in this very challenging marketplace, especially as women and minorities in the construction industry. To me, that's what defines leadership, because it's helping me help them align the direction of their company and continuing to generate the revenue that they need to stay, stay open. Um, yeah. So you asked me about obstacles that I faced. Oh gosh, it's so many. I'll share a few that I'm facing now, because there's been so many I've faced just being in this space. And even with people knowing that I'm in construction, I've built some really amazing relationships over these last 30 years. I still deal with a lot of challenges. One being having access to certain projects. A lot of times the state, the city, the county, federal government, they go after those larger companies who have the bandwidth from a financial standpoint to complete their projects. They go after companies that have been in, business and have solidified the work that they do in the community. So a lot of times small women and minority contractors, we get overlooked because most people want to do business with the people they've always done with. And so that's why it's so very important for me to always tell my story and for me to always share the work that we're doing in the community so that we'll get that opportunity. One way to get the opportunity and an obstacle that we've been able to overcome is by teaming, by partnering, collaboration, working with larger companies who are required to at least bring in at least 20% or more of minority contractors. That has opened up doors for us to partner with some of the larger companies, and has also helped us to create some recurring revenue, which I think has I think has allowed us to build our base with the business as well. Other obstacles that we face, of course, is access to capital, and I'm sure a lot of small business owners will share that with you. That making sure we have enough cash flow to continue to run our business can be very challenging if we're not generating that stream of revenue that keeps us afloat. Those are some of the obstacles that we faced with the company. What was did you have another question as well, Trish?
Well, your obstacles, what you've done to overcome them. I think you've covered that. Any kind of advice that you would give women who are facing those kind of adversity. Some of us, like myself, I went out and started my own consulting business because I got tired of working for old white men and their attitudes. And some women I didn't like working for either. So because they were very patriarchal. So any advice about your leadership or your leadership style that might help some of the women move forward into going after a dream they've had, but we're too scared to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So for me, as always, I always advise that one, we educate ourselves on whatever our industry is, that we go out and we learn as much as we can about the work that we're providing for our clients. So I always try to stay abreast when it comes to project and construction management. And I do believe that networking is extremely important in the work that we do, whether we're getting out, attending other small business networking events, whether we're going to an association like I'm a member of Urban Land Institute. I'm a member of CCIM. So I want to make sure whenever they're hosting events that I'm in the room, because that's where you really start building those relationships with people in the industry. And it's important that they get to know who you are and what you do because there's times that I've been in a room and I've had someone follow up with me and it's like, oh, something came up where they needed a team or partner with a woman in construction. And it's like, oh, I met Lasenta at this event. And so they'll follow up with me. And that created an opportunity for me and my company. So I do recommend that we as women that we get out more, and that we don't be afraid to share what it is that we do. What is our superpower? What is our expertise? What is it that we bring to the table? Because a lot of times people are looking for what it is that we offer, but they can't partner with us if we're not willing to share and be open, to really talk the work that we do. A lot of times, we don't want to feel like we're gloating or boasting about what we do, but if you're in business, you should. People need to know what it is that you do in business, and how you are a value add to what it is that they're hoping to accomplish. Or even when we work with our clients, what is it that we can bring to the table that'll help solve our clients' problems, or help them execute upon whatever it is that, the goal that the client has that they want to complete. Also, I recommend, and one thing that South Carolina Women in Leadership talk about is being on boards and commissions. I'm on a lot of boards, but I'm very strategic about the ones that I decide to be a part of. One, I like to be on boards that only meet 4 times a year, where I don't have a monthly commitment. And that allows me to be on multiple boards. And then the other thing, I like to be on boards that support women, that support children, that support the education of our children. So I sit on the MEBA board, the Midlands Education Business Alliance boards, because of the work that we do with students. We partner with the school districts to bring, just expose our youth to different job opportunities that are non-traditional, like construction, like being an electrician or a plumber, or because they make really great money. And a lot of times our students don't know that. They just look at going into a 4-year college, and nothing's wrong with that. I mean, I have an undergrad from the University of South Carolina after I finished Midlands Tech, and it's great to have on my resume. It's great when people look and say, okay, she's a Gamecock, especially in this Gamecock nation that we live in. It's good to have that. But these tech schools are doing some amazing things, and students are graduating out of the tech schools with careers at 40, 50, 60 a year. And too often we're not sharing that story with our youth. So being on MEBA board helps me be a part of exposing students as young as elementary to some of those opportunities. But also being on boards help me see some of the needs that we have in the community. And it helps me to connect better with the people that we're serving in the community. So I sit on the Goodwill board, and we do a lot of work through Goodwill that helps workforce development, that helps, not only do we sell clothing, even though people donate clothes and they think, oh, I donated it and they selling it for $1, $2. All of that money goes back into the community to create programs specifically for areas that we have noticed that are needed within the community. So serving on boards, I'm on the Homeless No More board. I'm on the Oliver Gospel Mission because I have a passion too for figuring out ways, how do we better serve our homeless? How do we better put in programs that impact them mentally, and help them get back on their feet and back into the community, working and thriving. So I serve on boards that are very intentional about the work that needs to be done with families. And so I appreciate all that South Carolina Women in Leadership does, because you help women, I guess, see our value and see that our voice do matter. You help women to see that we are the front line of everything, whether it's in our families, whether it's in the job, in the community. We're the front line and we're the backbone. So why not implement programs that help strengthen us and who we are and how we can be better leaders in the community, and how we can can forge these partnerships, these collaborations that can continue to focus on issues that we see in the community.
Emily posted, is the 20% requirement you mentioned for larger companies to subcontract to women and minority-owned business a regulation or an internal policy of the companies? And I kind of think I know part of that answer, but I'm going to let you answer because you're the speaker.
Well, so that is a question, correct? She's asking me, is that a 20% a standard?
A regulation or an internal policy for companies?
Neither. So the 20% comes in with when you're dealing with the city, the county, maybe the school districts, whenever they procure a contract, people like me go out and advocate that they include a minority participation goal. Because if they don't do a participation goal, a lot of times we don't get an opportunity because the larger companies come in and they beat us out. However, when they go back and they say, okay, we need to make sure, we bring all to the table. And unfortunately, a lot of agencies and companies, that's not their primary goal. Their goal is profits, right? Their goal is to get in there, bid it, do the work themselves. They don't really implement anything pertaining to small women and minorities. So like, I'm gonna give you an example with the school district. Whenever the school district put a contract out, they always put a goal to it. Like, we want to at least have a minimum of 20% women, it's called SWIMBY, Small Women and Minority Participation Goals. And that gives us an opportunity to get our foot in the door. That gives us an opportunity to build those relationships, show that we are capable of doing the work. We're just a smaller unit than the larger companies. And of course, our pockets are not as big as the larger corporations when they come in, but it is that opportunity. Also, I want to share, like recently, the city did what they called a disparity study. And now the county is in the process of doing a disparity study. The purpose of those studies is really to see, from a procurement perspective, who are not getting opportunities. And that's where you'll see where women and minorities, we are at the bottom of the totem pole, that we are not accessing opportunities as much as we can to continue to build sustainable businesses. So what they do, once they finish those disparity studies, they come back and say, okay, we're going to set a goal. Every project that we put out, we're going to require that the larger company come in with at least 20% or more. The goal is more, of course, to come in with at least a 20% goal of bringing in small women and minority contractors. Unfortunately, larger companies, they don't have that goal. Some of them do. You have some companies out there through the supplier diversity that have minority and small and women goals, which I commend them for that, because that lets us know that they're looking at the community as a whole and they want to support all contractors. So that's my answer. But Trish, I'd love to hear your perspective.
I found the same thing to be true. I worked for a company that when they hired a woman of color and then they hired me, we were remote. And so they were looking for there's a thing where it's a zone. You have to live in a certain zone. And they would check to see what zone we were living in so they could, it was a white man that owned the company. So it would fall under the women and minority owned business. And I didn't like the fact that he did that. I thought that was a little disingenuous. But working with school districts, which is what I used to do, and city and county positions, there was in most of the districts that I worked with and the states that I worked with where there was a requirement to do 20%. With other businesses or privately owned businesses, we never could compete because we were a small business. And because we were a small business, you couldn't get those contracts a lot of times because you couldn't offer the huge discounts. And I found that to be true when I was working in software resales, that big companies could practically give their product away. And we just couldn't do that because, we're out to make a profit and you got to pay your employees. So it's very difficult as a woman. And when you're being hired because you're a woman for that specific purpose, Because I know if you've looked at the contracts, they'll say, how many women do you have working in your employment? How many are minorities? They want to know that information. And so sometimes they tend to lean, not that I don't mind being hired because of my expertise, but I don't want it just because I'm a woman, so they can get those contracts. And I don't know if you found that to be true prior to you getting into your own business.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to touch on something you said in reference to, it's called the hub zone.
Right,
And
that's it.
yeah, it's the historically underutilized like development zone. It's for mostly underserved communities. And that's really something through the federal government. And a contractor like the guy that you mentioned, he has to maintain a certain percentage of hub zone participation in order for him to even be a part of that project.
Right.
So that's probably what he was doing. As far as when it comes to being a woman-owned business, initially, I did not go after certifications to be a woman-owned business or minority-owned business because I really wanted people to hire me because we just awesome at what we do, right? Like that was my whole intent. Like I want to get a reputation that when you hire our company, we're gonna show up and show out and do the best job possible and bring excellence to the table where you don't even have to look that I'm a Black female. Okay, I need to look at the work that we're producing and how we're helping you as a client deliver on your projects. But then, reality hit that, those designations as a woman and minority owned are just tools, right? They're just tools that help us get our foot in the door when otherwise we would not. And so I did realize, okay, we're going to use it as a tool, not as a crutch. Okay. And I'll tell you, we've landed on projects because we are a woman owned and minority owned company. And we've had to deal with some really not good people who think that we're only at the table because we are women and minority and not really see that we have a level of expertise that really match what they have. It's just we're smaller. And it has created challenges for me because I do work in a white male industry. And I've gotten a lot of just negative. I'm dealing with 2 issues now where they don't think I deserve a seat at the table. And I feel like they tried every corner to try to throw us under the bus or make us look incompetent or make us look like we're not doing the work that we're hired to do. And so a lot of times we have to work 3 times as hard on our projects. We have to overly document to cover our behinds on a lot of issues that come up and they want to say is our fault. When really it's not. And our documentation always supports it. But that's a challenge, that's a challenge. And, I was just talking to my husband the other day that I really want to work with people who want to work with me. Like I do. I want to be in environments where people see the value that we bring to the table and that we can thrive together. It's really heartbreaking to work with people who really don't want you there. Granted, these are great contracts and bringing good revenue for the company, but dealing with people like that, and it's really sad. And I actually feel sorry for them because they really don't know how awesome we are. If they just sit a minute and really get to understand and the work that we're doing, understand who we are and just work with us, we could do really great work together. But it's been unfortunate that we've had this, I've experienced that. I'm experiencing it right now with a client that I've been pushing to work with them for like 5 years, like so excited for this opportunity. And then once I get the opportunity, I'm teamed with a guy who don't even want me there. So, but as a leader in the company, I have to overlook some of the things that happens, but I will not be disrespected. And I think that's when it hits the fan for me. Like, you cannot want us there. I get it. That's fine. But don't disrespect us, and don't keep making it seem like the things that you're dropping the ball on is our fault. And so for me, I just think as women, make sure you document. Documentation, man, it helps us, especially in construction. It gets you out of a lot of trouble when you document. And I'm sure y'all hear that a lot in construction. It's critical. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that. Did Trish drop off?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had to
How,
adjust my camera. It kept sliding and I was
oh,
dropping out of the picture. And it's
I
because
thought,
it sits on the back of my desk, and every time she scratches or something, the camera wobbles a little bit.
oh,
One of the things that you said that really resonates with me is disrespect. And the reason that I just recently finished a women's psychology class, and one of the things that they were talking about that I find, and I always chimed in on when we were talking about, was what does it take for women to have a place at the table, demand the respect that we deserve? And one of the things that the young women, I was an undergraduate, a graduate non-degree student. I didn't have to, I was taking the courses for fun. And one of the things that the students had to do is do a presentation of what the perfect utopian world for women would be. And what the theme that kept coming across all of their presentations was demanding respect, that we have a place at the table and that respect is important. How do you go about constantly demanding the respect that you're due to get that across to whomever that you're against, that you deserve that seat at the table because you're good at what you do, and this is how we're going to do it together?
yeah. So for me, being in the construction, which is a very technical industry, knowledge at the end of the day supersedes all that. Um, One thing I think, well, a couple of things. Showing up is one. Despite what someone says or don't think I deserve to be there, I'm gonna be there. So showing up is very critical. And I show up with a smile on my face. The
Regardless.
the other thing is important is to be present. When I'm in spaces like that, I'm very observant. I'm taking notes. I believe in body language. I'm looking at the people around me. I'm looking for allies who are going to be there to support and sponsor me. I'm looking for those who really don't want me there. Because you gotta know who you're in the room with. You got to learn the people that you're working with. The other thing is, I ask questions. Like, I'm very inquisitive. And in asking questions, I also make sure when there is a conversation or dialogue that I become a part of it. I make sure that I include myself in dialogues as it relates to the project. And eventually I've learned, and it's been kind of organic, but people in the industry who I've worked around, they like, oh, Lasenta knows what she's talking about. Well, how do they know that? Because I've involved myself in the discussions, or I open my mouth, and that makes a difference. When we sit and we don't say anything and we don't participate, sometimes they can look at it like, oh, they're not participating because they don't know anything, or they don't have the knowledge to speak on this particular topic. But that's not true. Sometimes we're just observing. So I really do look at the room. Who's my audience? And that really determines how I respond when it comes to that level of respect. Now, recently I told you I was working with someone who didn't want to work with me, and it got really bad to the point where I just went to higher leadership. And I remind people, I'm the president and CEO of my company. Like, I'm not your hired project manager, or we are hired, but we have our own company. And sometimes you have to be very forthcoming with people and tell them, like, your role, why we're here and how we're here to help you, so that they can better understand. And when I did that, it made it a little bit better. Um, so to answer your question, yeah, I just think, know what you're talking about when it comes to your work. And I'm sure many of the ladies on here can kind of share, because of the knowledge that they have in the work that they do. People will come to them simply because of that, because as women in business, we're solving our clients' problems. And most people want their problem solved. So if they know that you're going to be the one to help them bring that to completion, then they'll be willing to work with you despite you being just a woman. And that kind of goes back to Trish, what you said, being, not just having certifications and stuff because I'm a woman in business, but just because I know what I'm talking about when it comes to our industry. That's so very important.
Emily has a question. How has a lack of female mentors in the industry affected you? And do you think that hampers others from working in the field? Were you able to find a mentor when you started out?
No, I was not. I have not. And I think that's why I'm more open to mentoring other women in this industry. It's unfortunate. I sometimes I sit in rooms and I hear the guys, they stand up and they talk about, oh yeah, well, my boss, he mentored me and that's how I got to where I am today. Well, I didn't receive that directly. I will say, because of the rooms that I intentionally put myself in, some people were my mentors and didn't know it. Okay. So whether I observed how they did business, I started watching how they moved, in the community. Those things were kind of a mentor for me because I'm watching, I'm observing. Some things I take and say, okay, I could use that for me and my business. And then others, some things you wash out, right? So to say if I had a direct mentor, who no, yeah, yeah, I don't see that a lot. A lot of the larger companies do have mentorship programs, um, but I wasn't a part of that. I will say though, I do mentor other women, and that was part of the reason for me starting LLE Consulting, because I didn't get that certain level of mentorship. I thought it was important to feed into women. I've helped several women start their own construction companies, and still today, I have women who will reach out to me, not just in South Carolina, but even outside of South Carolina. They're in the process of winning a potential project, and they need to know how they should structure it, or they need to know, Lasenta, do you think this is a good fit for my company and help my company grow? Because I didn't receive a certain level of mentorship, I think it's important. That's why I give back so openly. Like even on social media, I try to share, things that my experiences and things that I've went through or challenges that I've had and how I've had to navigate to get through them. And I look at that as a form of, mentorship in a sense, because I don't see that. I don't. No. And that's why again I commend the South Carolina Women in Leadership, because that's something that y'all do provide. If I'm not mistaken, you do provide mentorship for women who are seeking, running for office. That's critical because sometimes we need that guide. We need someone to kind of hold our hands and help us kind of navigate through the areas that we're not very familiar with. And when I started construction, I really needed that. I've made so many I've made so many errors in the work that I've done over the years, not as noticeable, but for me, because of my expectations of myself and my company, I just, it's just things I could have done better or quicker had I, if I had a mentor or somebody who could really sow a seed into me and even be an advocate for me and my company, or what I call a sponsor, somebody who's going to speak up for us when they're in a room that I'm not in. And I've had some of those. I've had people to speak up on our behalf, but that's because of the relationships, that we've built in the community. So that's a great question, Emily. And unfortunately, I just don't see enough of that in our industry and construction. There are associations and organizations out here, like you have the National Association of Women in Construction, that you can be a part of. You have, the Carolinas AGC, which is the Association of of General Contractors Association. Yeah, of General Contract. So there's associations out here that you can be a part of, and you can meet people that are in our industry and network with them. But when it comes to a mentor, someone that could truly hold your hand and guide you, I haven't been able to find that in the construction. Now, one of the pivots that I've made with my business is I am now a developer. I started Collaborative Partners LLC, which is a community and commercial real estate development firm. And our focus is on bringing more affordable housing to Columbia, but it's also on mixed use development, whether it's bringing more commercial mixed with housing development to the city. Those are some of the things that I'm very passionate about and I'm working on. I've been able to find mentors in that space. Unfortunately, the mentors are not in South Carolina. I've had to go outside of South Carolina to find my tribe, and to find the people who are going to support some of the visions that I have, because I wasn't able to find it here, in Columbia. When I reached out to several developers just to get feedback, or can we meet and can we talk, they were reluctant to meet with me. And I said, okay, that's fine. Plan B. Plan B is go outside of my community. And that's exactly what I did. And I've been able to find advocates in California, New York, Atlanta, DC, and they're supporting the work that I'm doing now with the community and real estate development.
I get that totally. One of the things that I've noticed with and please, if y'all have questions, post them on the message board and I'll read them off. And because we've got about 15 more minutes, and I'd like to fill, because this is an amazing woman. Sounds like you have not allowed yourself to be stopped by anything. And I think that's an amazing attribute for women to have, and for you in particular. One of the things I'd like to ask you is, if you had to stand before a group of young women, regardless of what they were going to do in their future, what would you tell them as to being the most important thing as young women should do for themselves in order not to be shortchanged?
Okay, so I don't know how appropriate this is, but I'm a praying woman.
Whatever works.
And so the first thing I'll tell women is to have a good relationship with God. Okay. I look at God as my business partner. I pray about everything that pertains to this business. I don't make any moves until I pray and try to at least sit and wait on an answer. Sometimes I make moves. I tell young women that all the time, like, as you start this journey, make sure you align yourself, okay? Align yourself with God's presence. And so that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I tell young women, and really all women, is, develop really good relationships. Like, being around other people have been very a big part of my story, because of the relationships that I've built in this community and outside of our community, has been the force that I've needed to execute on different projects or new ideas. It's been the people. Like, I intentionally surround myself with really great people, people who have good attitudes, people who, they intentionally live a positive life. Like, I can't be around a lot of negativity. Like, it drains me. It is like it zaps something from me, and I'm like, oh my God, I just can't be in that environment. So I intentionally put myself in the environments of growth and opportunity. Even when I want to quit, or I just want to just say, just throw in the towel, I've had enough, I go and pray, and I ask God to give me strength and guidance and vision, to stay the course, to continue to do the work that He has truly blessed me to be able to do. And then also just to surround me with the people who's gonna, be in my corner, or give me the truth. I don't want people in my spaces just gonna go along with everything that I say is good, because it's not. you know. And then also I would tell young people, I know we talk a lot about education and the school system and what, but had I not gone to Midlands Technical College and got my degree in architectural engineering, like it really opened up doors for me. So I do believe that education is key, and I am a lifelong learner. I'm always like I just finished a development program recently. I just and I pay for it, you know, because there's things that I still want to learn. And in order to learn, not only am I learning, but I'm putting myself in spaces with people who are doing what it is that I want to do, with the small development that we're doing. So I would tell young women, invest in yourself. Do not mind paying to be a part of programs that's going to teach you what it is that you want to learn. Like for me, I want to know more about real estate development a few years back. So I started taking development programs and classes and going to Savannah and DC and New York to meet with other people who are doing what it is that I want to do. Um, and it's been helpful. Like it's helping me now to move forward with my development company. So I do say don't shortchange yourself by not investing in yourself and putting yourself in places and positions that allow you to grow.
That isn't, that's excellent advice. One of the things you talked about, the things that you do, is about affordable housing, and I'm sure that includes starter homes. And my partner and I were traveling around the other day, and I was like, does anyone ever build starter homes anymore or affordable housing? I said, all I see are these overpriced, expensive homes that most people who are starting out or who are nurses, policemen, firemen, teachers can't afford. And it makes it very difficult for people to establish themselves in a community when they can't afford to live in the community. What do you see as the obstacle, particularly since mostly those are women who are in those positions in teaching and nursing? What do you find to be the obstacles to that?
Well, first of all, if you go back and look at it, it's really our zoning, right? Plan and development in the different cities and counties. They changed a lot of the zoning that impacts where we can build certain spaces like affordable housing. And then the other thing is you got too many people who say not in my backyard. You know, they don't even understand what's going in their backyard. Like affordable housing is housing that a everyday working person can afford, that it is 30% or less of their revenue or income that they bring into the household. But a lot of people look at affordable housing as LIHTC, low income housing. Okay, there is a difference. Low income housing is where maybe you don't have a job and you're getting a subsidy to live in a particular place. Affordable housing is workforce housing. It's for your everyday working professional, your teachers. It could be government. We have so many city, county, state government workers who not even making $40,000 a year, and they're supporting a family. So why would we not want to build more affordable housing to support families in the community? I just think there has to be just a change in how we as a community look at affordable housing. I think that the government, we can't depend on them to build all the housing that we need, or our housing authorities. We are going to need private developers that's going to come in and invest in affordable housing. Now, with the market we're in right now with construction, of course, the cost of materials, um, I mean, during COVID, materials went up is 50%. It's ridiculous. And now we're still at a 25-30% increase or so on construction materials. And that impacts building housing that's affordable, because now you're looking for a subsidy. Who's going to come in and offset? If it's going to cost us 175,000, 200,000 to build a house, then what that means we got to sell it over 200,000, right? In order to make a profit. So that's why you're seeing a lot of houses, that are being built, and they over 200,000, what, 300,000. It's a house you probably would have saw 10 years ago for 150, a good $100,000 gap right now. Even houses that are on the market for 500,000, you look back, they were 300,000, 350 some years ago. So I do think because of COVID, people have capitalized on the fact that we were going to, when we are, they say we're in a recession now or heading to a recession. If you look at some of the economics on it, that just from my perspective and from me being in rooms where we talk about more affordable housing, we talk about the funding that's out there to support us doing it. It's happening. It's just happening a lot slower than we see it. You have if you look at Greenville, South Carolina, they've built a lot of affordable houses in the last 2 to 3 years, and still building more. We're looking at opportunities where we can build them in Columbia. But again, it goes back to your zoning. And the county has done a really good job. Crystal Hampton, they've done a really good job with changing some of the zoning codes that are out there, restructuring where we can build. And that's opening up an opportunity to put more housing in places where we haven't seen growth in years. So I hope that answers the question. It's still a moving every day, we hope
It's
to
just
move
an issue
forward.
for me. I've worked, I mean, even in Rock Hill, and we're close to Charlotte. I live in Rock Hill, and we're
Mhm.
close to Charlotte, and that's where all the overflow comes from.
Yeah.
And you heard about the Panthers debacle here in York County. So
Yeah,
caused the housing to just shoot up
I know.
absolutely ridiculously. And the people that I see that it affects more are women and children.
Yeah.
It just bothers me that, they won't address the problem. I hope that's something that you're going to be able to break that ceiling for and help women and children. And there's the studies that say that, if you can live in a house that you own in a neighborhood that you belong to, it helps your children become better in as far as education, health wise, and so forth. So I commend you for working with that, because that's important.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I think, and your advice for getting on boards and commission, absolutely spot on. If you folks didn't see this on the message board, Emily posts several links so you can look at becoming part of boards and commissions. The easiest thing I can also tell you to do is to go to your county website, your city website, look at their boards and commissions, apply. Never say you're not qualified. There are
Yeah.
some that you do have to have certification for, but for other things like the Hospitality Tax Commission, other tax commissions, certain things, you don't have to have specific, knowledge as far as certification for, but you do have knowledge that you can partake that will help put you forward. And then that's a jumping point to get you elected to other positions, including city council, library board, so forth. And particularly in this
Yeah.
day and time, we need more women who believe that everyone should have the ability to read what they want to read on library commissions. So
Right.
that's my big issue as well.
And I
With
like to do,
Go
Trish,
ahead.
just real quick. We as women, we have a pulse on the community.
Mhm.
Pulse on what's going on with our children, with the schools, with the in the workplace. Who better to serve on these board and commissions, which really sets the stage and make decisions about a lot of things that impact how we live. And so that's why I always encourage women to get more involved, because we're allowing men to make decisions for us. And if you notice, most of the issues with the abortion rights, of course, came from men. Whether I agree with it or not, we didn't have the women at the table to be a part of that discussion. And so I just think that as women, we really do have a pulse. We see what's happening in our communities. We're people come to us, for answers a lot of times. So being on these boards, running for office, being at the forefront of how do we resolve some of the issues we see in the community, I really think that we are better suited for it, because it's just who we are and what we do.
Exactly. Well, thank you again for being here. Amazing information. Thank you so much. I'd love to meet you in person and sit down and chew on your ear a little while. Because I always think growing your circle of women is so vastly important for us. I don't care whether you have to go to California to get a member or not. That's part of your circle, and just build your circles according to your needs. So thank you so much. Emily, who do we have for January, or do we have someone for January?
We do not have a speaker for January yet. We do have a speaker for February. I cannot remember their name off the top of my head, but it is the head of the Liberty Fellowship.
Cool, thank you.
And just circling back to the building the network, starting next year, SCWIL is going to start offering some networking events across the state. So keep an eye out for that.
Are y'all also doing your conference this year? I wasn't, if you did last year, I wasn't able to make it.
So we were doing 1-day conferences on boards and another day on elected office, but we're trying to spread them out now. So rather than do a 1-day conference that not everybody can attend, we're breaking it down into sessions that we offer usually around lunchtime throughout the year. So
okay. Good deal. Thank you. Lasenta, did you want to add anything before we close out?
No, I do. I want to take the time to thank all the ladies who joined us today. Thank y'all so much for being here in the middle of a day. I really appreciate it. I hope that you gleaned something from what I've shared that can help you. And I look forward to being in circles with you very soon, where we can have further these type of discussions and talk about some of the issues that we are experiencing in our communities, and then how can we resolve them together collectively. But thank y'all. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Trish, for this opportunity just to share my story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And everybody have a great holiday season, regardless of what your faith or belief is. We all have something to celebrate. So continue to enjoy yourselves. And I wish you all peace and joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.